Welcome to Campaign 2025. I'm Steve Cosio, where we are doing a series of campaign interviews, those that are running for MISD School Board and those that are running for Mansfield City Council. And in this case, it is the school board. And as we did last year, we bring in, and it is our pleasure to introduce former MISD School Board trustee, Karen Marcucci. She's seated to my right, your left. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you for inviting me back. I'm always excited when you call.
Well, thank you. It's good to have you back. How many terms were you on the school board?
I was on the board for 3 terms.
Which is 9 years?
Yes. Yes. It felt like 900, but it was 9. Yes, that is correct.
And as a former school board member, we thought that you would have better questions than me. So
I have been following school board stuff a lot lately, and I have been trying to stay on top of things. So I'm hoping that I can offer some good questions that will engage our listeners.
Well, let's engage our first candidate who is here in the studio. Now, this interview is being recorded on March 3rd, 2025. So obviously not released immediately. All of these interviews are being released all at once. In the studio today, he is running for MISD School Board of Trustees, Place 5, Jesse Cannon II. Welcome to About Mansfield.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Karen. It's my pleasure to be with you all here tonight.
And you go by Jesse, and if you...
Jesse.
Jesse, if you can come a little bit closer to the microphone so our good friends with earphones on can hear you.
It's great.
And that's perfect. Why don't we start with 60 seconds or so of tell everybody who you are and why you're running for school board?
It's a great question. So my name is Jesse Cannon II, running for Place 5. I will say that I'm made in Mansfield. My family moved here in 2002. So I started my freshman year at Mansfield High School. In my junior year, I then went to Summit and graduated from Summit in 2006. From Summit, went to Dallas Baptist University and did my music education degree there. While I was in college, I still served in Mansfield. I was an avid tutor. And then I went into the classroom. I started my educational career at Eisenhower 1 year. And then I taught high school in other local districts, high school choir, in fact. And so that's been my passion. That was kind of birthed here in Mansfield. And it's kind of something that I've done since I've graduated and something that I'm really passionate about, the fine arts and our students and outcomes. One of the reasons that I'm running is because I believe in the power of public education. I know what it does to our community, how it impacts students, how it impacts families and our community at large. So that's one of the things that I would like to do, just to be present in the community and support our teachers and staff and our students in Mansfield ISD.
I'm going to yield the first question to Karen, and I think it's a doozy.
I'd like to know more about what you think there are some opportunities for the school board to do better. I would like to know a little bit more about how you being on the board might be effective in implementing some positive changes.
That's a great question. I think with any district, and especially a great district like Mansfield ISD, that while we can celebrate our success, I think there's always room for growth, right? And so one of the things that I think that our board could do is increase communication and transparency as it relates to getting parent input. I know previously there were forums where parents were able to engage with the board and things like that, but also the timing in which those take place. If we're having forums, if we're having in-person meetings, they can't always start at 5:30 because many of our parents in the district work. And if you haven't traveled in Mansfield, it's pretty difficult to get anywhere in the city in 30 minutes, right? And so if you're coming from outside of the city to come, we may want to consider a later time to make that happen. In addition to communication and transparency, I would also say that increasing involvement and visibility across the board. I know that there are a number of school board members that do that very well. I think that we have opportunities to do that across the board.
So to piggyback on that, what are some things that the board's currently doing well that you would like to see continue?
The timing of the school board meetings, meaning how long they take. I think that that is important as we want to get more parents engaged in those conversations. I haven't been to a school board meeting that's taken longer than 3 hours. And I think that's really important as we want to engage more parents in the things that are happening in the district. We often celebrate all of our students in the district at the top of the meeting. And so a lot of those parents leave after that, not knowing that if they just stay 30 more minutes, they can get a lot more information about what's really happening in the district. So,
what attributes do you feel you can bring to the board to make it a successful board? And what attributes in general make up a good school board member?
For me, myself, I think that I have the enthusiasm. One of my key characteristics that I've been told that I have is that I'm a really good listener. And I think that that is also needed in really good leaders. Whether we have the answer or not, it's important that we listen to our constituents so that we can ensure that we have all of the information that's needed to make key decisions. Because when decisions are made at this level, it doesn't just impact one student. Yeah. It impacts an entire district. So I think that's really important that we heighten our awareness and listen more so that we can empathize with those that we've been called to serve.
I will say that's one of the challenging things being on the school board is that very rarely do people come to you with a bad idea. And so one of the most challenging things to do is to take your limited resources and figuring out how you're going to use those because, again, nobody's come to you with a bad idea. So being able to listen and understand what's needed, I think is very important.
Absolutely.
So if elected, what do you believe is your obligation to Mansfield ISD and to Texas public schools? You started to talk about that a little bit. I'd like for you to explore that a little bit more with me.
So my obligation as a leader is, once again, when elected, I'm called to serve the constituents of Mansfield ISD, not just 76063, but South Arlington, Grand Prairie, and every other city that encompasses our great district, right? I'm also under the understanding that if you are supporting public education, that you don't align yourself with other people that don't support public education, right? You can't serve two masters. And so while you can't stand for strong public schools and align with people that don't. And so I think as a school board member, if we're advocating for public funds to remain in public schools, then regardless of my own personal beliefs, I need to be on the same page with every other person on the board as it relates to supporting public education in our district.
So can I piggyback on that?
Piggyback.
Okay. So can you tell us your stance on vouchers or educational savings accounts? Clearly, at this moment in time, this has not made it through the House, but this educational savings account bill has made it through the Senate. So can you tell us a little bit more about what your stance on the bills that are currently out there?
Yeah, I'll just simply say, and I'll take a quote from my friend, Mr. Tallarico, and say they're a scam. Regardless of how they're being sold, they don't benefit all students. They're not for all students, and it's not going to be great for our state in the long run. If you look at the data with other states that have implemented this, they're failing. And if the case will be made that these will improve schools, then they would have already done it because the same people that are trying to push vouchers have been in control and could have made the changes that are needed, but they haven't.
Being on a school board is more than just investing 3 or 4 hours a month attending a school board meeting. You do have to go through training, courses that to become a school board trustee. Do you have the time to be a trustee, and what are you giving up to be a trustee?
I would say that if you ask any other person that has become a trustee or that is running, none of us have the time, but we make the time because it's important to us. Yeah. And it's important for our community to have people that will be at the table, that will speak for the voices that can't be at the table. And so that's another reason why I'm passionate about running. But also in my work, my daily work, I work in a local school district. So I'm aware of the time in my other service opportunities. I've dedicated that time to do that. And so this opportunity would allow me to utilize the information that I have, the resources that I have in my background to enhance the board as I become a member.
And then what are you giving up? I would assume you got some hobbies going on at night or on the weekends that are you got to give something up in order to be to spend some hours on the school board.
You're right. Luckily, my hobby involves music, so I serve at my local church. My family, my daughter does music lessons here in the city. My son and my daughter are starting Little League sports, and so my family is fully vested and committed to doing this and seeing this through. But as I shared before, none of us really have the time, but we're making the time because we know the impact that this will have.
So I'd like to talk finances with you because it's gotten more expensive to run for school board. I feel like spending's at an all-time high. Can you tell us more about your top 3 donors, who they are?
Top 3 donors. I will say my top donor is probably one of my best friends who is also a graduate from Summit High School. His name's Gabe Kunda. And if you haven't heard his story, it's really powerful. But he is a voice actor who graduated from Summit, later went to Dallas Baptist as well, and majored in music education. And the others are probably tied, but I'm not tied or connected to any PAC, or my loyalty doesn't sway with any politician either way.
So that was going to be my other question is, are you being supported by any PACs? But currently you're not being supported by any PACs.
As of March 3rd, no ma'am.
Okay. Thank you very much.
When's the last time you attended a school board meeting?
I wasn't able to attend the February school board meeting because it was rescheduled kind of at the last minute, and I serve on the executive board for TMEA, and we had our conference. And so the last board meeting I attended was in January.
TMEA, Texas Music Educators Association.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Just make it.
Sorry. Alphabet soup for educators. I'm sorry. All the acronyms, we're good for that. But yes, that is
just throwing that out to the listeners. TMEA. What is okay.
So we need to get some personal questions here. So what instruments do you play? Tell us a little bit more about this.
My primary instrument is voice. My secondary instrument is piano. And so I cannot play any other instrument. I tried in college. We just kind of had to take all of the other instruments, and so that didn't really go well. I'll just leave it at that.
And I think you got a couple of fun questions for Jesse, do you not?
Well, it's all a perspective, right?
Okay.
But I do think I have some fun ones that are
make
here.
You think.
So what subject or class is now offered in school that you wish you could have taken when you were in school?
I would say that I would have taken up on more audio-visual courses, just because that's especially my interest. And I would also have taken maybe some business finance courses as well.
Well, you could have interned with Steve, too, if you had taken some of those.
Audio-visual, we're always looking for people who can edit video or even run the controls and make sure that everyone sounds good on the microphone. And we've actually looked into tapping the Ben Barber students, not only for those who can do the editing and stuff like that, but also for journalism. And
it's fantastic. They have a really great team that participates in Skills USA, so been really successful. So.
Right.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing what our students have been able to accomplish. Which brings me to my next question. So if students had a vote in school board decisions, what do you think their top issue would be for the board to consider?
There are a lot of things that people have to say about our youth, and I would disagree with about 99% of them.
Such as?
Our kids are not the issue. Our adults are the issue. In saying that, the standard for our students has been lowered so much that the adults around them don't hold them accountable in the same way that my generation was held accountable.
Would this be similar to the parents that go to a Little League game and it's not about the kids, the parents are yelling at the umpires, right? And okay,
yeah. So you probably remember a time like when Little League games were the hottest topic at the Little League game was who brought the snacks today,
yeah,
right? And so that. But back to my original response was that I think that our kids are looking for the adults in the room, and we continue to let them down. Because while we're discussing really small, trivial things, our students need our support as it relates to SEL, as it relates to their outcomes, their learning outcomes. Our students are coming to school to learn, right? And so I think it's important that we make the main thing again, and stop bringing in discussions that have nothing to do with student outcomes and education.
How do we keep our students safe in school?
I think the district has done a really good job about the supports that they have in place for student safety. I think it's also important to discuss one of the district's legislative priorities for this year, right? For many of the mandates from the state is requiring security in all of our schools. However, they did not give us the funding to properly staff all of those positions, right? So I think that those are conversations that we have to have. In addition to properly funding public education, every mandate that comes from the state needs to come with the money to continue to support it. So not just the mandates that are surrounded by security, safety and security, but it also for our SPED population and all of those things.
So have you had the opportunity to track many of the education bills that are currently in the legislature? If so, I was just wondering if you'd like to touch on any of the subjects that are out there, from, banning cell phones to eliminating taxpayer advocacy for public schools and cities, to vouchers, educational savings accounts is what we have to call them now. But if there's any legislative work that's out there that you support or strongly against, if you would like to touch on any of those topics.
So yes, aside from vouchers, that's been my heaviest research, especially during my time on the executive board with Texas Music Educators Association.
TMEA.
TMEA, I can abbreviate it now. But we also have a couple of House bills and Senate bills that are currently either going to be discussed this week, March the 6th, or they have been filed as it relates to public education and school finance, as it relates to the fine arts allotment. So basically funding fine arts the same way CTE is funded. If you're not familiar, the more seats that are in our CTE classrooms, those dollars are given to the district as well. The same thing does not take place for fine arts. And so that's there are three, like I said, 2 House bills and 1 Senate bill that's currently will be discussed.
So why don't you tell us a little bit more about why fine arts are so important to schools from your perspective?
How much time do I have?
We have 7 minutes.
There we go. No, I'll take all 7. No, it's something that I'm extremely passionate about.
I can tell. That's why I wanted to ask that.
Just because it was me. I was a kid who stepped into a classroom with Asa Lowe, who ignited a passion in me that, had I not been in that class, I don't know what I would be doing right now. Right. And so in a way, I would say that music changed the trajectory of my life. And for so many of our students that engage in our fine arts classes, those classes are the things, those are the places on campus where they feel safe. Right. And so for many of our fine arts teachers, and all of our teachers really across the district, they create these safe havens where students feel like they can really be themselves. And when students feel safe and loved and respected, the growth that will take place with that student is immeasurable. And so in my time as a classroom teacher, my motto was always be who you needed when you were younger. And I think I lived that out. And so in my role as a district level administrator is be who you needed when you were in the classroom. Our students that consistently win accolade after accolade after accolade and represent this district really speaks to not just our fine arts teachers, but all of our teachers, because also when I was at Summit, I was in academic decathlon and UIL academics and all the things, right? But they bring so much recognition to our district, right? And athletics is great as well. Go Summit Jags, wishing you guys luck this week in your playoff run.
Big playoff.
And so I think the more that we find students involved in our fine arts courses, the data shows that they are outscoring their peers as it relates to testing STAR testing, SAT testing, ACT across
I was going to
the state.
say, because I was down in San Antonio. This was probably 10 years ago at a TMEA convention, and the president of TMEA said those that go through, let's say music instead of fine arts in general, those who go through music score higher on SAT courses. Those who go through music courses, they're essentially learning different languages because Italian,
French,
and
German,
Latin, and
Latin.
the education someone gets out of music is so much beyond what is being taught in just regular curriculum.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I'm a fan of fine arts too.
That's great to hear. I am curious though, do you have any children in the district, and how do they feel about fine arts?
I do have two children in the district. One is a third grader and one is a kindergartner. And then my wife is also a teacher in the district as well at McKenzie Middle School.
So are they going, you said that they were taking piano lessons and some things like that. So are you encouraging the fine arts with them as well?
Absolutely. Just as I grew up, I didn't really have a choice to do many things. And I think there's some things that kids should just be pushed into, strongly encouraged, right? Because once again, the data shows, especially with our younger students, how that correlates with the brain and all those things like that.
So my parents were the same way, and I just want to throw out there, I'm not very musically inclined, so I played the viola because it's really hard to get kicked out of the orchestra because there's not very many people that play the viola. So that's my little helpful hint.
Would be the same.
Yeah, that's
right. But even though you're not involved in music, the skills that you learn while participating in the orchestra are the things that you continually execute right now. Right?
I just wanted to give somebody a little hint on how they could get involved.
You have young kids, third grade and kindergarten. They're in the school district. What is your vision for the educational community for your kids since they have another 9 to 12 years in the district? Assuming you don't leave the district.
No. I imagine a Mansfield ISD, even past Vision 2030, right? Mm-hmm. Of what our teachers and our students deserve in a district that is going to continue to grow, that is even growing right now, and what that looks like for them. And I thank our leadership in the district right now, from those that are in central office, because they have laid out what is taking place based on what they know needs to happen so that our district can continue to be the blueprint, if you will, for other districts, right? Mm-hmm. If you ask other people in neighboring districts where they got an idea from, I would bet you many of them will respond and say Mansfield ISD. And so I think we continue to grow in addition to our city, and we add opportunities not only for our teachers, but our students as well. And that's how we will continue to maintain being such a great district.
So I have a really offbeat question that I was thinking about the other day. You have experienced the growth from Mansfield High School opening to Summit opening. So if the school board had a mascot, what would it be? Just dream a little bit.
It's actually funny that you mentioned mascots because I was the mascot in college. A little known fact. But if Mansfield ISD had one mascot.
No, if the school board had a mascot.
If the school board had a mascot.
What do you want to dress up as if you're going to be the school board mascot?
That is such a great question. But if I had to select something to be the mascot for the school board, I imagine that it would be a tree, just because not only are the decisions that we make have roots, and while our time on the board, we may not even see the fruit of those decisions that we make. But just as school board members that served when I was in high school here in Mansfield made decisions that impacted my educational experience, we now see the fruit of their labor, right? And so I think that a really strong school district or a really strong school board has really deep roots. And for our district and the history of our city, I think the size of the tree and the amount of roots and the fruit that resides on the tree speaks to the work that was done not only now, but even before. So, Yeah.
That's a great answer. That's so much better than an arrow.
Yeah.
So much better.
Jesse, what's your favorite fruit tree?
Ooh, I would say orange. I like
orange tree.
oranges. Yeah.
Okay. In the couple of minutes that we have left, I know 20 minutes just goes by very, very fast. A couple of minutes. Is there a question that you thought that we would ask that we didn't ask that you would like to address?
You guys asked great questions. But no,
Certainly, you're thinking about your candidate forums that are coming up, and you're anticipating questions that the moderator is going to ask you, and you've got these prepared answers. And we didn't ask one of those questions. What would that question be? I guess we've asked them all.
You have. I mean, at least that I've thought of.
Okay.
So no, it's been great.
All right. In that case, do you have, if someone wanted more information about Jesse Cannon, the second Facebook page, Instagram, Tinder, or whatever? Is there any way that someone can reach out and find out more information about Jesse Cannon?
The only apps that I am on are Facebook and Instagram. You can find me on both of those platforms at Cannon 4 FOR MISD.
Cannon 4 MISD FOR. And is there a website that goes along with that?
Cannon4MISD.com.
Okay. Do you have any parting questions?
No, I look forward to some candidate forums. I think that will be interesting. I haven't seen any yet, so I look forward to finding out when those will be, and we'll find out what questions they ask that we weren't prepared for.
That's it. Thank you both again. I appreciate it.
Again, Cannon4FORMISD.com is the website. Look him up on Facebook. Look him up on Instagram. Jesse, I sure appreciate your time, and good luck on May 3rd.
Thank you again, Steve and Karen.
Thank you.